Nigeria's former Minister of Finance, Idika, has welcomed the decision to remove the subsidy on petrol and the harmonization of the exchange rate of Nigeria's currency to the dollar and other international currencies, noting that the policies may take some time to yield desired results. Speaking earlier with Arise News, the economist cum politician says it would be wayward at a time when there is the need to reduce the cost of governance for political office holders to begin to nurse the idea of a pay rise. Kalu, who served under former military president Ibrahim Babangida, advised President Tinubu to relay the exact situation of things back home to foreign investors in Paris, France. He also speaks on the nation's debt profile.
Subsidies are not by themselves good or bad. It depends on how they are structured, the purpose of the subsidy, and of course, how they impact on deviation from what we might construe as the normal price relationships, where prices essentially reflect the quantum of supply as against the level of demand. So at the extreme level, you don't want to interfere with how the market evolves prices to reflect relative scarcity and the soundness of decisions on saving or investment. So on the first reaction is that because we allowed it to fester for so long, usually you look at it in terms of something that will be spread over a few months, or in rare cases, longer. But the most important thing is to convey that decision that you want to remove the inefficiencies that are inherent in using subsidies the way you have used them over several years. There was no question that it is the right decision from that standpoint. Having said that, I must say that I've been pleasantly surprised at the speed which we are now putting into place measures that will reduce what you might call the wild oscillation from removing it instantaneously. Particularly in this point, the most important element, contrary to what you hear in the debate, is the issue of the exchange rate. Because when you bring in something at a high import price, the domestic price has to reflect that price for you to not have to administer subsidies. But where your exchange rate has continued to depreciate for all kinds of reasons, the budgetary operations, creation of money supply, and other factors that affect the deviation between optimal production in relation to the demand levels, then you have to make sure that you do not jack up the price in a way that the system cannot respond as instantaneously. There's a season to producing, whether it's cassava or yams or rice or vegetables. So it takes a little bit of time for those price adjustments to take place, just giving that as an example. So yes, one felt a little bit alarmed at the notion of, we've boiled it down to political will. It's not really a matter of political will. Everybody should have the political will to create something that creates so much distortion in the economy, not to talk about the fraud that now came with it. Of course, the fraud aspect of this issue, you can deal with that instantaneously. But the one that affects the decisions on saving and investment and production and so on, it's a lag that you cannot do anything about. It takes so many months to grow flowers or vegetables or rice or yams and so on and so forth. But I can see, as I said, I've been pleasantly surprised, and I think most economists will adjudge the processes as being in the right direction, because you can see the convergence of these multiple exchange rates that were created by all kinds of means through setting up different windows for different transactions and so on and so forth. It's actually the person who is asking for foreign exchange who knows why he needs the foreign exchange. So there's convergence of the exchange rates, and there are attempts to ameliorate other impact of this instantaneous removal of the subsidy. So in sum, I would say that yes, normally you take all kinds of factors into account and structure that announcement, not to talk of even the detailed policy, so that the population, different stakeholders, are satisfied that the government, in taking the decision, has explicitly acknowledged all the factors that come to play with the issue of subsidies. Well, I had a little rumor a few days ago that public sector salaries would be increased, and I tweeted somewhere that I would not believe that that is so. I hope that my belief is still so, because it's my sense that the government would not do such a thing on the back of where we are, and as a priority in terms of where we have just come, starting a new government. So I am sure, I think I have had a rebuttal already from the information, people who handle the information, that that is not the case. Nobody has approved any new salaries. But I think it's a very important question, because if you are looking at priorities for the public sector, thinning down the fat, I mean, you guess that this is not exactly something I have not thought of before. It's this sort of question I would like to address. Reducing the cost of government is one of the top priorities, should be one of the top priorities of this government. It's not just that we have so many areas that need investment, from power to water, to transportation, to housing, to health. We need huge expenditures here. We have no business padding up perquisites in terms of emoluments and allowances and car allocations and so on and so forth. So in other words, I think what people expect of this government is to do a quick trimming down of the size of government in every way. You can close your eyes and use the sharp scissors to cut out the fat in the government, you know. So I will very much subscribe to that as a very top priority. So I think Nigerians have every right to feel upset if they start hearing about increasing the perquisites. I don't care whether you're talking about president or senators or governors or ministers or commissioners. This is the time to take a very good look at how these things have been determined since some of us left office. I don't know how we got to where we are, but I think this gives us a new start, a new opportunity to look at all the, like a tailor reducing the size of to fit a much thinner structure. But besides that, to make sure that we don't have avenues where we are locating more and more perquisites that really are not recognizing the fact that the people need basic needs. All the elements of basic needs should be addressed. If we have to have any additional PECs, they should be fully justified, and they should be reflective of areas where revenues are also coming in, not things that we expend that are not giving us any dividends as far as the people's needs are concerned. We should begin to reflect that giant. We've just had elections. I must say we've got a lot of bad name from the elections. So how do we sort it out? You know what I'm talking about. It should be seen from a distance, from the capitals of the world, that we recognize the fact that there were so many, putting it mildly, a lot of problems with the elections. But what makes sense now is how are we addressing those problems? Through the judicial reviews, through looking at issues with INEC, for instance, both the structure, the administration, the leadership, the rules. I mean, no country has it right. But your ability to show that you are willing to correct the issues, that is a sine qua non. You can't get away from that. It is absolutely a condition for people to begin to see you as a giant. Otherwise, we are requested to come and monitor elections in Gambia, in Sierra Leone, in Namibia, whatever. You know, some of the smaller countries. We ourselves should also live by a clean standard of governance. So that's one thing. Another thing, I already alluded to the issue of security. You know, we police other countries too, pre-independence and post-independence. So we should be able to, and we've got a lot of very disciplined, trained people in all of these areas. So how do we allocate them to reduce the issue of security. A lot of people who love this country out there, that is one thing that bothers them. I have been out there, I go out there, and I know. So that is one thing that will show, yes, we've had serious problems, but we are also taking it seriously. We are not trying to sweep anything under the carpet. You can't sweep it under the carpet, not in this day and age. With you fellows with your television screen and the social media, there's no way you can hide anything. But people appreciate where a leadership comes out and says the right things. We know we have made mistakes. We know we have problems. You can't say everything is fine, everything was fine. Nobody buys that. They may say, okay, we hear you, but of course they don't believe you. So that is something else we have to do. The other thing which I just thought of, this is a large country, ethnically divided into so many. We're talking about close to 450 or more, although we keep talking about a sort of tripod, which doesn't really make any sense anymore, or we just talk about a few ethnicities. But the rest of the world are not interested in ethnicities, except in a historiography sense of culture and so on. They want to see a measure of unity. You are mobilizing your people. So that is a challenge we have to show by what we do, that everybody is coming along, and because that already exposes the country. It's large, it's ethnically divided, but it's a safe investment destination, because you can see everybody is singing the anthem without any qualms, flying the flag, representing the country in sports and so on and so forth. That we are, in other words, a sense of social mobilization. We have to pay a lot of attention to mobilize everybody under this large configuration.